Tom Bower, who has been working on the sequel to Revenge for some time, has secured a big money serialization deal with Rupert Murdoch's News UK, specifically the Times newspaper, but I believe it may also extend to the Sun newspaper too, to reveal the first bombshells from his book, which is expected to further damage the Madam of Montesquieu.
All right, so Revenge was released in July of 2022. Since then, based on polling and media coverage, how would you describe the trajectory of Harry and Meghan's reputations professionally and personally? It feels like they've taken quite a bit of a dive.
What's happening now isn't just another wave of criticism aimed at Meghan Markle. This is the point where the story changes shape entirely. When Revenge was released back in 2022, Meghan and Prince Harry still had something powerful on their side: momentum. They had streaming contracts, celebrity defenders, glossy magazine profiles.
How desperate was Meghan Markle to be famous? Well, apparently, according to Tom Bower's book, she basically spent seemingly all her money with the sole goal of intention of finding the right connections and being as famous as humanly possible.
And a media ecosystem willing to frame every criticism as cruelty. That world no longer exists. Revenge 2 isn't landing during their rise. It's arriving after the collapse, after the deals evaporated, after Hollywood quietly backed away, and after public patience ran out. Timing matters. And this timing could not be worse for Meghan. What makes this moment especially dangerous is who is telling the story. Tom Bower isn't a commentator chasing clicks or a YouTuber speculating for engagement. So he is one of the most feared investigative biographers in Britain, known for dismantling powerful figures using documents, witnesses, and facts that survive lawyers. He doesn't accuse first and verify later. He verifies until accusations are no longer necessary. That's why Meghan's usual playbook doesn't work here. You can discredit critics.
You write in the book, Harry must be nuts. This is one of the text messages his friends were sending around to each other after Meghan's first introduction to Harry's friends in 2017 during a shooting weekend at Sandringham.
I think personally, they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
You can sue tabloids, but you can't intimidate someone who builds cases that hold up in court. The first Revenge asked uncomfortable questions about ambition, control, and manipulation. The sequel reportedly goes much further. This isn't about personality anymore, it's about patterns. Patterns in business.
Certainly brings to light that whole theory of you put a frog in boiling water, it jumps straight out, but if you put a frog in cold water, it will slowly boil to death. And I think a lot of people, whilst myself hasn't actually been really shocked by the revelations because I was aware of, I'd say, most of them.
Patterns in relationships, patterns in public narratives that don't align with paperwork. When something fails once, it can be brushed off as bad luck. When the same type of failure repeats again and again across different ventures, continents, and years, it stops being coincidence. That's where Revenge 2 becomes truly threatening, because patterns leave trails, and trails can be followed. One of the biggest warning signs is the way this book is being released. Tom Bower secured a major serialization deal, meaning the revelations won't drop in a single burst that Meghan's PR team can smother. They'll arrive piece by piece, headline by headline, week after week. That strategy is devastating. It forces constant reaction. It keeps controversy alive. It prevents the classic PR move of going quiet until the storm passes. Serialization doesn't let storms pass. It keeps them raining. What should genuinely unsettle Meghan?
And so he became hypersensitive and blamed the media for the crashes of his relationships, never thinking that they could have something to do with himself. So he's a very complicated, depressed, unintelligent man who is seeking a role and has got really nobody on whom he could rely, which is in the end where Meghan stepped in. I mean, a needy man met a woman who could help him with his needs. But I do think that when you're mocked so publicly as they've been, their value begins to nosedive pretty quickly. And I don't think they're finding any more.
Is Bower's confidence. Despite years of legal scrutiny, also he has never been successfully sued, not once. That isn't bravado. It's evidence of how methodical he is. Every claim is layered. Every conclusion is supported. He works with court records, financial filings, documented testimony, and on-the-record sources. Meghan has relied heavily on narrative control, emotional framing, and selective storytelling. Tom Bower operates in a space where emotion is irrelevant and documentation is everything. A key shift that Revenge 2 reportedly captures is the moment public sympathy turned into public skepticism. The South Park episode wasn't just comedy. It was a cultural signal. Satire only lands when it reflects what people already suspect. And that episode crystallized years of unease into something unmistakable. The obsession with privacy while chasing attention. The endless retelling of the same grievances. The branding of victimhood. After that moment, something broke. Hollywood stopped defending. Executives stopped returning calls. Projects stalled quietly. Tom Bower watched that shift happen in real time and recorded how quickly admiration turned into avoidance. Instead of dramatic accusations, the book reportedly places contradictions side by side. Stories that subtly change over time. Public claims that don't align with records. Moments where lawsuits would normally follow, but silence takes their place. Tom Bower understands that silence can be louder than denial. When someone aggressively sues over minor issues but says nothing about serious allegations, it raises questions no press release can answer. He doesn't tell readers what to think. He shows them what doesn't add up and lets logic do the rest. The business ventures become another pressure point. Publicly, they were framed as massive successes, sold out instantly, wildly popular. But numbers don't care about headlines. Sales velocity doesn't respond to hype. Inventory doesn't disappear because a press release says it did. Revenge 2 reportedly follows the money from launch announcements to real-world outcomes, exposing a widening gap between perception and reality. When that illusion collapses, it doesn't just hurt a brand. It destroys credibility, and credibility is the only currency left once influence fades. Then there's the charity issue, which may be the most explosive section of all. Charity filings are sworn documents, not PR spin. When expenses dramatically outweigh donations, questions follow. When salaries rise while actual grants shrink, scrutiny intensifies. When staff turnover accelerates, insiders begin to talk. Tom Bower doesn't need to allege wrongdoing. He only needs to publish the ratios. Numbers have a way of stripping away emotional defences, and once they're public, they can't be reinterpreted. What makes this moment especially volatile is that many people who once stayed silent no longer have a reason to. ND. As weaken with time. Fear fades with distance. Careers move on. Resentment doesn't. Tom Bower is known for patience. He tracks people for years. He waits for the moment when silence becomes heavier than speaking. And by the time Revenge 2 arrives, far more voices are reportedly ready to talk than there were in 2022. The final problem for Meghan is simple but brutal. There's nothing left to counterbalance the damage. No blockbuster project waiting in the wings. No wave of goodwill to spend. No powerful allies eager to go on record. Public favourability is low. Industry enthusiasm is colder than ever.